The NBA season is nearly a month underway, and true to this show and close to my heart, let's talk about the rookie darts. Welcome to Chucking Darts, a podcast of informed, rigorous, reckless, harmless, speculative, and fun predictions about the game we love. You can call me Chuck. This is episode, oh goodness, maybe 235. I feel like the most recent episode 234, I believe, was the last of a season preview series. That was with Esfandiar Baraheni of The Athletic, where we went and ranked NBA offenses 1 through 30 based on where we would expect them to finish up at the end of the year. The way that I try to do my season preview is rank offenses and rank defenses. I did that over a series of 3 episodes and squeezed in one with sort of general prediction. So y'all can go and check that out. This will be the first episode that is released really reflecting on what has already happened in the early season. To do that is a very good friend, one of the OGs that started really sort of alongside me in the draft space back in 2020. Nate Grubel of Draft Deeper, or pardon me, his handle is Draft Deeper. He is of No Ceilings. He has his own rookie rankings that he is releasing, I think, on a weekly basis this year that are doing very, very well. His first appearance on this show, I think, was about guards in the 2021 draft, where I held a cell phone up to a microphone as we talked about Cam Thomas and Jared Butler for an inordinate amount of time. But Nate is a wonderful follow, a great mind, and I'm glad to have him back. How are you, Nate?
I can't believe you can remember so many different details. First of all, you keep an episode count on where you're at. I can't even remember what I had for breakfast, and you're on like at what 235. You're just spouting that out. Like you amaze me every single time I look at your stuff and get to chat with you, Chuck. But I'm good, man. As you said, we're great friends in the space. We came in, started podcasts together, and ever since we've been trying to get together once a season, at least once a season. I think
At
we
least,
missed that
yeah.
mark last year just due to some timing stuff. But nevertheless, let's consider if we go by calendar year, we're still on track because we're within 2025 coming back together for a podcast. So we're right where we need to be.
There you go. Look at you saying you don't remember stuff. You're keeping a calendar track of when we're able to pod. That's
It
wonderful.
comes and
And
goes, Chuck. It comes and goes.
well, believe me, it will go more than it comes the older that you get. I can assure you of that. But
100%.
this is a very exciting time of year because you are covering rookies in explicit detail this season, but there's now been a sample of games, I think, between 10 and 15 for any given team to really reflect on where these rookies are. And I think a lot of people forget that, you know, there are lots of draft people who do lots of great work following a pre-draft NBA player, prospect, dart, whatever you call them, for years and years before they enter the league. But for many of them who are one and done, sort of the highest profile of them, that one and done season is 30 games or so, and you'll blink and you'll be at Christmas or the New Year, and they will have an
Yep.
equal sample size in the NBA. So I do not believe that, looking at the sample size that we do have between 10 and 15 NBA games, I do not believe that that is too small. I don't believe that it is too small to draw conclusions from. And I'm ready. I'm limber, and I'm ready to get some takes off, some darts to chuck. But I don't want to, even though I'm excited. What I'm most excited about is to hear your perspectives, Nate. You said before we recorded, like, I want you to come at me, and I'm not going to do that. I want to hear what you have to say.
Now, what I said was if we're talking about rankings, all I said was you can't leave the audience without your own personal ranking. We can't let you get off the hook with that.
I understand. You've exposed me. That's correct. But what I think how this should proceed is with your rankings at the front. And I will tell you where I have each person individually ranked. But enough of keeping the people who I'm sure on just the edge of their seats or their shoes as they're walking their dog or doing whatever it is that they're doing. Who would you say? Well, with your rankings
Sure.
are to this point in the season, as in which rookie has played the best, and that's how you rank them, or is it
That is correct. We're
okay?
refreshing these rankings on a weekly basis. This is the age-old power ranking tradition that every media member loves to engage in and get hate for, and what, however else you want to put it on social media. But that is essentially what we were doing. And I plan on doing like a mid-season kind of where we're at in terms of how I would rate these guys out for like all rookie first and second team. But we'll get into all of that as time goes on. But yes, this ranking that we're talking about today is a snapshot reflection of where we stand today. How good have these guys been up to this point?
Okay. Well, then, with that framework in mind, who has been your very best rookie to this point in the season?
Well, it's everyone's favorite white All-American shooter. It's Kon Knueppel for the Charlotte Hornets. I don't know how we could go with any other name up to this point, since what we've seen over the last, call it 4 games, has been nothing short of remarkable from Kon Knueppel. This guy's putting up 20 plus points. He had a 32 bomb the previous night to where we're recording this podcast.
Yeah, Friday night game. Very fun. Very fun.
He's been efficient. He has been lethal. He's been unafraid to take on a higher usage role with both LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller out of the lineup. I have this little trivia tidbit for you, and I want you to maybe give me an answer. I don't know if you'll have one because I can't think of one. Mm-hmm. Could you honestly think of the last time where we could drop 3 rookies on the floor together and they have a positive net rating up to this point for 100 possessions?
I don't think. No, I don't think, honestly, I don't think since I've been alive that has been the case over the course of a calendar, like over a full year. Obviously, we've only done whatever it is, an eighth of the schedule. But no. The quick answer is no.
Like, Charlotte is on pace to have, and I'm saying all this because obviously Kon is the straw that stirs the drink for all of it to happen. But it's important to put in context that Charlotte has 3 rookies who could potentially end up on all rookie teams. They could have 2 that could potentially be on an all rookie first team. We're very early in the process, but the last time anything like that happened was the 90s with like Big Z and some of the guys on that Cleveland Cavaliers team. I think in 1999 was the year. I saw it on social media the other day, but I was like, when I saw it, I was already thinking of when was the last time this could have happened. And then it was like magic. X gave me the answer. That's incredible. But yeah, this is unprecedented early success for rookies on the same team. And it all starts with Kon, because I think he just makes the game so much easier for everyone else, as you and I would agree upon. And it's not just the spacing out to the corner. It's not just the threes where he can catch a quick off movement. It's everything he does when he catches the ball. He's able to get 2 feet into the paint, kick the ball out, find somebody else, leverage a lot of his physical ability to actually get a shot off at the basket. It's all the different ways they're using him as a screener. Every time he is in a ball screen action, it completely confuses the defense. Like, they don't know what to do with it. They don't know if he's going to slip. They don't know if he's popping back out. They don't know what he's going to do. But Kon is so great at using any ounce of space that you give him to his advantage to where he's going to make something happen with it. He has been incredibly efficient. Like I talked about, 46.5%, 40%, 87.5 as his slash line on 13 shot attempts per game and 2.7 free throw attempts per game, soaking up a 21% usage rating. He's average to excellent in all play types per Synergy Sports. He's been excellent as a roll man, working in handoffs. He's in the 44th percentile in terms of pick and rolls, including passes. The one interesting statistic that stuck out to me before I want some of your thoughts on Kon, Chuck, is he is in per Synergy's shot quality metrics. So they're tracking the types of quality shots. They're low, medium, and high. He's only in the 16th percentile in terms of efficiency on high quality shots per Synergy. So he's already been this good.
Is that to say that his like most open looks are not going in? Is that what that's communicating?
That's exactly what that's communicating. So gotcha. His highest quality of shots have not yet been falling at a clip where we would expect someone who should be getting a lot of those looks given his role on the floor, especially when he's sandwiched in between guys like LaMelo and B. Miller when they get back in the game. But his best quality shots aren't going in yet he's already been this good at any other diet of shots that he's been able to live on. So there, to me, he's already good now. There is a very easy, legitimate runway for him to get better in something like that. And we already know the type of quick decision maker he is, the type of passer that he was in college at Duke. I heard you talk about it extensively on podcasts. Just everything about Kon is quick, quick, quick. We're seeing that in the NBA. He's translated very well. And it's incredible what can happen for a team when you just establish a baseline of, we're not necessarily looking to draft the quote unquote sexiest prospects. We just want to bring in guys who know how to play. And it's just incredible what it's done for the Charlotte Hornets this season. They're not on some crazy win pace, but the team is just so much more fun to watch because they're all just so connected with one another. And that starts by having someone like Kon Knueppel who can step up, the straw that stirs the drink, and he plays just so unselfishly within the flow of the games where he just makes everyone else around him better by default.
Yeah, so I would say, first of all, I love Kon. Had Kon number 2 on my board, ahead of Dylan Harper, which I guess would be sort of the minority opinion at draft time. It might still be. Dylan's obviously hurt, and he looked very, very good in his handful of games before he had to sit out. So I think that Kon, if I'm doing my own ranking, it's between him and Cedric Coward for me. Yep. Like if we're talking about who has played the best right now, I will give the edge to Kon because Charlotte's been more aggressive at increasing his responsibility within the offense, like his decision-making responsibility within their offense. So we will agree on our number 1 selection. I think your point about his open shots, or I guess his highest quality shots not falling. I'm trying to look up his rim numbers now. Do you know his rim numbers offhand? Because I suspect that number has to do with his rim numbers maybe being lower than you would want.
Yeah, he's about average at the basket, so he's not necessarily great. He's not horrible, but he's about average.
Okay, then that's actually, because he's shooting almost 41% from 3 and 46 plus, between 46 and 47 from the field.
He is right now 57.9% at the rim.
Okay. I think that, if that's middle of the road, then I think that's encouraging enough. Kon is not going to dunk on anyone, not consistently. And so
he had 2 dunks in that Bucks game where he got up off 1 foot for that second one. And I'm like, holy crap, where did that come from?
But that second one was like Miles Turner, whoever the big was like playing all the way up. It's not as though he caught a body necessarily.
No.
But he got down.
I was excited to see he did it off 1 foot because the very first one he got in transition off 2 feet. Like that's the type of dunk that if someone looked at Kon Knueppel, they'd expect to see. They're not expecting that second one where he had a little bit of pep in his step and he got that pop off the floor with 1 foot. That's not what Kon Knueppel's known for. So I get it. It wasn't like an impressive play because he caught a body, but to just see something like that from him, like that was very fun to see for the average fan or Charlotte fan, whatever the case may be. That was really fun.
Yeah, no, it's certainly fun. Everything about Kon is very, very fun. And I think before I'm not even zagging because we agree on him at number 1. I will say that the way that he's been used in the screen game specifically is, I believe, a pleasant development compared to how he was used at Duke. Because at Duke, he was used almost exclusively as a ghost screener, where he would go to set a screen, but not really make contact that often, really only to fake it so that he could then pop more aggressively and make himself available as a shooter, which is a valid way to use him. But given his stature and how strong he is, I thought that he could be weaponized more as a screener. And I think Charlotte has done that right away, not even only to get him shots in the short roll or to pop where he's just sort of a screener and then in the middle of the action, but setting like back screens in sort of Spain actions and things like that. Like he can be a real weapon. He can set solid screens, but he also, the way that Kon throughout all of his game has these just tiny little margins that he leverages. He's, I think, an underrated He's an underrated screener in his setup because he doesn't jog into setting a screen. He
No,
will, when he knows he's going to go, he will sprint so that his man is reacting to his movement without necessarily knowing that Kon is going to set a screen. In other words, his man might be trailing because he thinks he's going to go pop. And if he ends up setting a screen, then the defender has to recalibrate in thinking, oh, well, now what are my responsibilities in the screen action? Are we
yep,
switching? Or, if we're switching, how aggressively am I switching? Do I need to communicate with my man? Like, having a lethal shooter who can screen like that and cause these sort of micro hesitations along the way for his defender, that really matters. It's the sort of stuff that keeps a defense in rotation. And lest I be accused of just sort of hyping Kon for his sort of micro skills, he leads all rookies in points. So for,
yep.
bucket appreciators, he has, let's see, 215 points. Cooper Flagg is second with 197. VJ Edgecombe third with 187. Cedric Coward fourth with 186. So he is putting the ball in the hoop. And with LaMelo, I mean, he returned last night, but with sort of the
Hmm.
5 games that LaMelo was out, you could see like that's when sort of the switch formally flipped in the Charlotte Hornets franchise. Not to say that it revolves around Kon now, but Kon
No,
had alternated about whether or not he would like necessarily be in the closing lineup for them over their first group of games. But once LaMelo went out and you needed that decision making void filled, and they saw what Kon can do,
yep.
maybe not in the way that LaMelo does it. Kon's more of a low dribble player than LaMelo, who can like snake and probe all day long. But once the coaching staff saw what Kon could give them as a
Hmm.
relocator, as a connective passer, as a ball screen manipulator, either as handler or screener, like that's just it's over. If Kon Knueppel's healthy, he is starting for the Charlotte Hornets, like from here on out, and as long as he wears a Hornets uniform, and that is great. And it's also something that I mentioned Cedric Coward. Like the Grizzlies still haven't started Cedric. They probably should, but like even for very
Yeah, they
promising
should.
rookies, that decision does not necessarily occur at the same time for everyone. So I I thought Kon was the best overall shooting talent in the class.
Hmm.
I thought that he was an extremely underrated driver, and I thought his decision making at Duke was so consistently impressive that I just felt like in the NBA, he was going to maybe be amplified relative to where he was in college as much or more than any prospect. Because I think, and there's a split opinion, I think, about whether or not the NBA makes it so much harder on young players because the athletic jump is there versus whether it makes it easier on young players because of sort of the old head. Oh, in
Hmm.
my day, we beat the shit out of people and whatever they want to say. I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle, but if you're a quick thinker and processor of the game, the NBA amplifies that almost immediately because you do have more space. So if you have more space within which to operate and make decisions, that talent is going to be immediately valuable because you will keep moving the ball and force defenses to rotate more urgently, and it will have a trickle down effect on your offense. To say nothing of the fact of just being able to score the ball, which Kon
Yep.
obviously can do. So yeah, I agree. Kon at number one. Um, I think that there's apart from that screening dimension that I said, there hasn't been anything that I've been stunned by that he's been able to do. But I wanted to ask you if there's any like dimension to his game that you're like, oh goodness, I didn't think I'd see that quickly.
I would agree there isn't anything specific in that regard that pops out to me, but I think everything that you were talking about from a decision making standpoint and how that can just sing within the offensive landscape of the NBA once you actually get to that level, I think is so on point. Like I applaud you. I did not have the cojones to rank him at 2. On my board, I did have the cojones to rank him at 3 on my board because I just believed in the fact that he can just fit in any construct that you need him to. I was the biggest proponent in I wanted the Philadelphia 76ers to take him at 3, not because I don't like VJ. I had VJ right below him at number 4, but I just think
Right.
with Kon, you can put him in any lineup construct and you're going to find a way to use him. You can space him out to the corners like we talked about. You can get him going off a handoff. You can run him off screens. You can have him work as the screener, like all of these different things. And what makes him so special is that he is 2 steps ahead on every single one of those actions, whether you're calling something for him or he's freelancing into one of those actions. Like a lot of those screens that we're talking about, Chuck, that he's setting at the top of the floor and being utilized in, like those aren't necessarily called for him. Like he's freelancing into that stuff and
Yeah.
he's immediately 2 steps ahead and he's figuring out if there's space here, this is the shot I'm going to take. If there's space in the middle of the floor because they're not expecting me to slip, they're expecting me to come off and take a shot. I'm going to take that space. And then immediately he's getting 2 feet planted and he's rising up at the free throw line. He's knocking down an open jumper. Like it's the fact that he's able to just recognize what has to be done 2 steps ahead of everything that he's doing. That is his superpower. That's what makes him so special. And that's what a lot of guys in his build don't necessarily have to their favor in their archetype. And I do want to do one quick call out about defensively. He hasn't been bad either. He's held his own defensively because I think I heard you talk about it before the draft. I certainly talked about it for the draft. You can't attack him in the ways in which you would expect to be able to attack him on the perimeters. Obviously, matchups where he's going to lose if he's going up against one of the 5 percentile or better best athletes in the league who have an explosive first step and they can blow by him. If he's switched onto like a 6'9" guy, he's the low man in the post, like you can score over him. Like we know all that stuff, but in terms of all of the other matchups and opportunities that are out there defensively, for the most part, he's holding his own. He's boxing guys out. He's got quick hands. He can go get defensive rebounds and end possession. So he's been a much more pleasant surprise as I expected on that end. I did not think he was going to be bad defensively, but that was a big concern of a lot of people. Rightfully so, because the athletic concerns were there and they were very real. But it's just another case of he just knows what he's doing. He knows where he needs to be. He leverages his strength profile very well, and he doesn't let guys beat up on him and create a lot of those advantages against him. You don't see him in those positions a lot. I think that's just more a benefit of his IQ on that end, what he's able to see and what he's able to recognize where he needs to be. And I think that's been encouraging for the Hornets.
And I'll piggyback off that and just say that I don't think that he hasn't necessarily been the weak link where you're gonna like attack him, like isolate and attack him on defense, nor is he making tons of mistakes, which is certainly valuable. However, he is not really a defensive playmaker. I mean, he has 9 steals and a block, so 10 combined. There's more to defensive playmaking than just getting those deflections and those plays. But that is like very pedestrian. Yegor Gelman, who probably won't appear in these rankings, has like 9 steals and 2 blocks and is getting yo-yoed aggressively for like the worst team in the league.
He has been awesome defensively. No, we're not going to talk about in these rankings. So I know the offense has certainly been a work in progress. A lot of his shots are just coming off of, catch and shoot opportunities or spot ups. He's not as active in creating a ton for the Nets just yet. So his offensive role is a little bit in fluctuation, but yeah, Dioman's been freaking awesome defensively.
So what? Not disagreeing, but I'm saying all this to say that like Kon's ceiling as a defender is relatively low, and
correct.
That means that for him to, now I know these are looking at what the production has been on the court thus far, but moving forward, like the real tension in Charlotte is whether or not LaMelo and Kon can really play together and play a brand of like winning modern NBA basketball. And that might seem like it's given all the plaudits we're heaping on Kon, that I'm like criticizing LaMelo. And it's not even really that. It's that in order to get the most value over a player like Kon, you have to give him as much offensive responsibility as you can. Because if you give him supplementary offensive responsibility or like modest or solid offensive responsibility, third option offensive responsibility, his defense is going to be so like pedestrian, not necessarily bad, but pedestrian, that you're gonna start losing margins.
Yeah, you've
If
got to squeeze out the value, 100%. Yep.
and that like that's all I'm saying. Like Kon
Mm-hmm.
is a really, really special offensive talent with enough defense to survive. But
Yep.
if you are taking that offensive talent and using it to like mostly make winning plays, so to speak, but not necessarily building your offense around him, then you might be misappropriating him. This offense, in my opinion, needs to either be a split between LaMelo and Kon in terms of like touches and decision making, or even maybe tilt a little bit toward Kon, like shortly. That's where I think it has to go. Unless you're going to trade LaMelo or something. That's an entirely different discussion that we don't need to have right now. I'm just saying that it's not because Kon does not have the athletic chops to be a real two-way force, like all
Mm-hmm.
defense on one end, offensive all-star on the other end. The Hornets do need to like really swing that pendulum in his area offensively, which they did the last 5 games. I'm just very interested to see how it develops now that LaMelo's back.
You and I we're in complete lockstep on that point. I do have a little more belief that that can actually work. Like when LaMelo's been healthy on the court this season, I've actually been pleasantly surprised with how it's looked. I think LaMelo, in multiple respects, has bought in more than I would have expected him to. This isn't a conversation about his leadership or anything like that. We're not getting into that. We're just talking about pure on-court performance. I've been encouraged with what I've seen. I think they can make it work. And then when you can get someone like Brandon Miller back in the lineup, then all of a sudden you have two guys who can shoot off the move, do different things around LaMelo offensively, and you can really just put defenses in a bind because they don't necessarily know what to expect. And a lot of that is if the defense's attention gets too caught up in what LaMelo's doing or what Brandon Miller's doing, Kon's going to exploit some advantage backdoor that they're not thinking about, and he's going to create something for himself, or in turn, that is going to lead to creation for somebody else because of how good of a passer he is. So I agree with you. They need to keep feeding him the ball and giving him different opportunities and take advantage of his strengths. I have optimism that the Hornets can actually make that work moving forward.
Yeah. So I love it. I hope you're right. And let's
I
move
hope I'm
on.
right too. We want good Charlotte Hornets basketball, man.
I mean, Eric Collins wants good Charlotte Hornets basketball, and we want Eric Collins to be happy.
That's
So,
right.
yeah. So, who do you have at number 2?
At number 2, I have Cedric Coward.
Great. All
So
right.
we're completely in lockstep there. I think with Cedric now, he hasn't had the same level of offensive responsibility as someone like Kon, but he's just been incredibly efficient in everything that he's done offensively. He has been a lethal shot maker. He's been better scaling up the lineup than down. So he's been much better with multiple ball handlers on the floor as opposed to him starting at the 2 and then you're putting another bigger wing, another forward with him. He's been better as a 3, sparing minutes at the 4, but he's actually excelled per net rating right there. Now he has hit a little bit of the rookie wall here. He's been 36% from the field over their last 5 games. Now that's against Houston, Dallas, OKC, New York, and Boston. So other than Dallas, those are 4 pretty good teams to have to go up against. But everything before that, and even when you factor in his overall defensive presence, there just hasn't been another guy, in my opinion, today that would knock him out of that number 2 spot. Although I would say a certain rookie in Dallas is getting his legs under him and is coming.
Yeah.
But I think for Cedric, it's been a lot of very quick decision making with him, a lot of quick actions in the pick and roll opportunities he has gotten. He's actually rated out in the 51st percentile in terms of pick and rolls, including passes, which is great to see. A lot of those quick passing chops coming to LA. He's been 41% on catch and shoot threes, only 2 for 10 on 3-pointers off the dribble. But I think in terms of what Cedric's been on the floor to do is get open, hit easy shots, cut to the basket, get out in transition, run the floor, and then defensively just be an absolute incredible menace, which I want your opinion on this, Chuck, because you had Cedric ranked in the draft higher than I did. Honestly, he wasn't even necessarily a part of my big board for most of the cycle because I wasn't under the impression he was going to end up being a prospect in that draft. I thought he was going to be in line for the next draft. But obviously when that came to be, I had to make some adjustments very quickly and on the fly. I thought that Cedric was always a worthwhile proposition to take within the top 20. I did not see this type of defensive player on tape at Washington State or Eastern Washington than we've seen with the Memphis Grizzlies. Like, he has been utterly incredible on defense, sticking with guys, contesting shots. Obviously, having a 7'2" wingspan helps a lot with that. But he hasn't been out of position. He's been good on the ball. He's been good off the ball. Like, I did not see this level of defense in college. I did not expect that end of the floor to pop for him so quickly, but because it has, I think because he's been that good defensively for Memphis, that's what's holding his ranking at number 2 right now, despite, like we talked about, some of the offensive struggles and some of the wall he's hit over the last 4, 5, 6 games.
Yeah. So I did have Cedric ranked highly. I'll give myself a little pat on the back for that, but I did not see this coming. I didn't. I picked all rookie teams before the year. I think I just like tweeted it or whatever. And I did it out to 3 teams. And I didn't put Cedric on any of the 3 because I didn't even know. I mean, this was maybe before the preseason. And I didn't know that his shoulder was healthy. I mean, he only played 6 or 7 games last year before he went down with a shoulder injury. And he didn't play in summer league. And through training camp, at least I think maybe it was just like they weren't releasing information or updates about him. Mm-hmm. And so I figured that this was going to be like, oh, maybe he debuts around Christmas or something like that. And depending on how the Grizzlies are doing, this is all like pre-Ja drama and all this stuff. Like, Grizzlies are a deep team. You know, Jalen Wells, Ty Jerome was healthy at the time. Scottie Pippen Jr. was healthy at the time. I thought that maybe he would like get some rotation minutes and more substantial stints on the court in like the second half of the season. Cause like I thought they wanted to make sure that he was healthy, but then preseason starts and there he is, and he has a bad first preseason game, but then he's just better and better and better every game after that. And it's the same sort of thing. The shooting efficiency arrives pretty quickly. The defense, like you mentioned, I did not see this defensive player on tape, but his combine performance was so impressive.
Yep.
And again, combine stuff, you have to know what to look at. You have to know how much to index it. But I wrote, when I did my like final draft write-up, that to me there were, apart from Cooper Flagg, and I guess Flagg didn't do the whole combine thing, but like there were 3 wings, and I'm excluding Edgecombe because I consider Edgecombe a guard. But there were 3 wings that I thought were like athletically sufficient, true blue, like menaces on the perimeter.
Let's see if we have the same 3 names. Go for it.
To me, it was Coward, Carter Bryant, and Adu Thero. Those were the 3 who participated in the combine. And that's no disrespect to Ace or whatever. Ace is just more of like a skilled shot maker kind of player, not like a physically overwhelming guy, in my opinion. Doesn't mean he can't start and have a very good career. I think I had Cedric 7th, Ace 9th, Thero 10th. Thero available for his first game last night, by the way, so he's finally going to play. And then Carter Bryant 11th. But I had them all in that sort of second half of the lottery.
For me, there were 4 guys who I said before the draft who if the team brought them in, they could help, not totally transform the team's perimeter defensive efforts, but certainly improve them in short order, that's a lot to say for a rookie period. But I said it was Cooper. I said Carter Bryant. I said Colin Murray Boyles, who
Yes.
has been
Yeah.
freaking awesome in Toronto, lower down the rankings. I'm drawing a blank on who the last guy was. It wasn't VJ though. I agree with you. I consider VJ more of like a guard. And one of my biggest questions with VJ was how was he going to scale up in the lineup for the 76ers? Like, because they don't really have a good wing defender at all. So how is that going to work out?
Oh,
But
hey.
I did not
Shout
have
out Oubre. Come on, man. Shout out Kelly Oubre. But
I love Kelly. He also drives me mad sometimes when I'm watching it.
yeah.
But yeah,
I
I
had
did not have Cedric in that conversation though, which has been surprising for me. But to your point, the physical tools, everything about the combine performances, his lateral mobility and his length have given him a lot of advantages over
yeah.
opponents defensively
And
early
to
on.
be clear, like I had Murray Boyles as a better defender than all of those three, but I
Mm-hmm.
kind of considered Murray Boyles at the time more of an undersized big than a true blue
Sure.
wing. And at combine time, he was still, I think, like shedding weight a little bit. Like I think he's in better shape now than he was at that point. But
Yep.
I mean, we'll get to Murray Boyles when we get to him. But I I just the physical tools were so pronounced, and I thought his combine performance was good enough that I'm not surprised that his defense has played up. Like the Grizzlies have Vince Williams Jr. in their rotation, who was 2022 draft from VCU. He was like, anyone who follows college basketball knows that VCU plays an extremely aggressive brand of defense. You're going back to when Shaka Smart is there, but they still play very aggressively. They almost always have multiple guys on the perimeter who
Mm-hmm.
cause like a ton of deflections and are athletically very gifted. Vince was one of those. Like he was probably defensively tilted as a prospect, and
Mm-hmm.
he is going to stick around in the NBA for a few more years, in my opinion. I like Vince a lot. But when you watch him and Cedric come off the bench, you just see the difference in physical talent. Like Vince,
Yep.
as good as he is more like anticipation based, maybe like hand placement, and just sort of understanding the scheme that he's playing and how to capitalize on offensive mistakes. Cedric, who I don't think is like I don't think he's been caught out of position that much, but he's still sort of catching up to NBA game speed. Like
He
he
is, but he
just
does he doesn't gamble a lot. He doesn't.
that right. Like
Yeah.
Vince can because he like has
Mm-hmm.
the feel to do so. But
Yep.
Cedric just glides and moves and can displace people with so much more force
Yep.
that even though he and Vince are superficially of similar size, Coward just pops off the screen like in terms of his physical attributes when I watch him, just compared to another good wing defender in Vince.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that though he does not have a ton of offensive responsibility in terms of decision making, another thing about Cedric, which Maxwell Baumbach, obviously no ceilings goat and a mutual friend, someone who like was on Cedric before anybody was. Uh he emphasized Cedric's sort of confidence and his
Yep.
self-belief because he interviewed Cedric, I think maybe before he was at Eastern Washington, like 2 years ago, maybe or
Yep.
longer. And he's told me, I mean, Maxwell won't mind me saying this, but he was just like, that's the most self-possessed, self-motivated person like I've ever spoken to. Not like person I've interviewed in basketball, but just like person I've interacted with in my life. These are Maxwell's words. And the way that I see that coming out in his game is that his passing is not it's not like highlight reel stuff, but he will do things where like the ball will swing to him on the perimeter, and even though there might be a read where he could throw the ball where it like won't be a turnover, he could swing it, he could dump it into the post, and it's like a relatively safe pass.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him pass those looks up for like a more audacious skip, or maybe he wants to initiate a two-man game where he's making a calculation that where I'm going to go with the ball is going to tilt this defense just a little bit more. And
Yep.
it's subtle stuff, but it's stuff that like a lot of rookies would just be like, do what my coach says and just like don't screw this up. Let's not screw it up. Let's play so that we don't get benched for the rest of the game, sort of deal. And Cedric does not move that way, and he doesn't operate that way. And again, we mentioned his injury. He has played more games in the NBA than he played above Division One in 3 years of college, or above mid-major, I should say. Above mid-major in 3 years of Division One. He played, I think, 9 games above mid-major in 3 years between Willamette, Eastern Washington,
Yep.
Washington State, and he's now played 12 games in the NBA. And to
Mm-hmm.
have the confidence to be like, yeah, I can make decisions with the ball in my hands. I know what I'm doing. I know where this ball's supposed to go. I'm not going to waste time. I'm not going to ball stop. Like, this is where it should be. I'm a member of this offense. This offense relies on me to make these decisions. It's just really, really encouraging and speaks to that confidence that Maxwell saw. So I like his overall numbers, just by the way, 48% from the field, 37.5 from three, almost 90% from the line. He's averaging
Mm-hmm.
14, 6, and 3. Kon is averaging about 18, 6, and 3. Cedric is doing this all off the bench. But it's it's amazing. Amazing. Like for a kid where he started his journey to where he is now, to play so confidently mentally and so confidently physically. Like he was getting over a shoulder injury. It's the last competitive ball he played that was non-exhibition was like before Christmas last year. And he's going up strong, rebounding really, really hard,
Yep.
displacing guys. Like it's very uncommon. And if you're looking for like, I mean, this class is not short on that. Flagg is a very confident player. Edgecombe is a
Yep.
very confident player, like in terms of their physicality and the athleticism that they can apply to an offensive or defensive possession.
We're to talk about with Jeremiah Fears. He's the number one guy to me in this class who has that just utter belief in himself. And
Yeah.
it's not even just necessarily an overconfidence. It's a willingness to try new things and be experimental and kind of living with those results, whether they're positive or negative, and coming back another possession, having learned something from it. And then you can see a little bit of growth within that. Like that willingness to explore the studio space and they kind of go hand in hand with confidence. But that's another thing with his game when we get to him that I've really appreciated with the Pelicans.
Likewise. But I think even with Jeremiah, it's a little different because Jeremiah is empowered in his offense to like run offense a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you do that, you're accepting that there's going to be some exploration. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, he might get too aggressive here and there, but you're like, that's okay. We understand. For Coward, if he did stuff tentatively or if he made too many mistakes, like he would get benched. Like because
Sure.
Memphis is trying to win, no matter what anyone else might say about them. That is what they're trying to do. And he's just excelling so immediately in these subtle ways, physically and mentally, that I like my jaw's on the floor. I think he is so good and he's going to get so much stronger than he already is. And he physically already belongs so much that I think the sky is the limit. He does not have the same sort of disclaimer that Knueppel does about how you need to tilt the offense towards him in order to avoid some sort of like mathematical problem because Khan's defense is only ever going to be so good.
Correct.
Like Cedric is a true two-way talent.
Yep.
So you can with someone with his shooting touch, you can weaponize that a million different ways. And it's on Memphis's coaching staff to number one, start him, and number two, figure out where in the pecking order and the decision-making order he should lie. But it's extremely exciting. Like there are probably I had him seventh pre-draft. I I don't think that there's five rookies I'd rather have. If you could say, in a redraft sense, I guess, not that we're doing that, like I don't know long term that there's five in this class I'd rather have than Coward. And that's as much praise as I can give him.
I'll go two more quick things on Coward, then we can get it moving. But with Cedric, I think number one, you talked about the physicality and the strength that he's able to leverage on the defensive end of the floor and on the glass. I think offensively, it's also really helped him separate for mid-range shots. Like when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about the aspect of like quote unquote star shots that these guys are able to make, that's what really helps Cedric pop in that specific area. And then number two, he talked about the confidence. I think he's obviously a very confident player in himself, and that was evident pre-draft with all the interviews you talked about with the work that Maxwell did for No Ceilings with us a few years ago. He is also very much a self-aware player. Like I do think there's that element to his game to where he knows where he's most effective. He knows where right now he's probably not the most effective, and you don't see him put himself out there trying to make those mistakes because he's overconfident. He believes, no, I actually can do this. He can get a little experimental, but I think he's also self-aware enough to know what a good shot is from a bad shot, and he stays within that lane. And you don't see him forcing a lot offensively in a negative way. And I think that self-awareness, you see that, like I saw that with, you see that with Kon Knueppel. You see that with someone in the last draft, Reed Shepard. See a lot of that self-awareness with him. Like I think that's such an important aspect of a player's game to not be afraid to try new things, but also recognize like maybe this is when I should do this versus no, you know what, right now I'm going to stick to what my strengths are and I'm going to make sure that I do this for our team to help us win. I think that's an important aspect that we don't talk about a lot with prospects.
I agree. And I'll say that my last thing on him, again, the decision-making burden is not as high on him as it is for some other
Mm-hmm.
guys, but there are, let me see if I get this right. There are 7 rookies who've played at least 200 minutes. And I'll even throw in Kalkbrenner because he's played just under that, and
Yep.
his wife just had a baby. He'd be over 300 minutes otherwise. Of those 8 rookies, there are 2 with an assist to turnover ratio of at least 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
One is VJ Edgecombe, who has 50 assists to 24 turnovers. Shout out to VJ. I'm sure we're getting to him shortly. The other, Cedric Coward, who has 40 assists to 15 turnovers. Again, I cannot stress enough how much of a jump in competition Coward is facing, given where
Yep.
he was and for how long he was injured for. So, in order, like, that's amazing. Frankly, amazing that he is approaching a 3-1 ATO in addition to everything else that he's doing. So, I just wanted to shout that out as well for him.
Low mistake players, baby. They win the battle every day.
That's right. That's right. So, that's I guess we have the same top 2. Who would you have third?
I have Cooper Flagg at number 3. I do have him jumping VJ this week. I had Cooper Flagg down a little bit, and I had a lot of people jump on me on social media about where I had Cooper, and I do think he has been an unfortunate benefactor of how that team has played out from a lineup construction standpoint because of a lot of the injuries. He's being asked to do a little more while also not receiving the benefit at the same time of having easy shots created for him. Like he has the lowest net rating. He has his lowest net rating at point guard, his highest at small forward. So naturally, as we can expect, when guys like Brandon Williams are on the floor to help ease some of that burden on him, things get a little better. But offensively, you take a look at his shot profile from start to finish, and I'm not going to sit here and read off all the numbers, but I can say with confidence, none of them look good. Whether it's from 3-point range, mid range, rim attempts, none of it's looking good. And it's because he hasn't had the benefit, like I said, of having things created for him. He's had to do almost everything himself. And some nights he's looked awesome doing it. Like they had a game against the Bucks where he was going like shot for shot with Giannis in the fourth quarter. Like that,
Yeah,
something like that is utterly incredible. But then
I
he's
thought
had
that
some
was his
stinkers.
best game, that Bucks game. Yeah.
That was absolutely his best game. Then he's had some other games where he can't buy a bucket. He's not finding himself within the flow of the offense. And so, yeah, a lot of those things have looked rough, but at least defensively, he's been able to hold his hat very well. He's in the 77th percentile per synergy in terms of total defense. He's been great at guarding spot up looks in pick and roll isolations. He's been excellent at defending and contesting shots around the rim. He's the 90th percentile right now. So there are aspects of his game that we knew would come over from college, right? The offense is still a work in progress, but he's looked better over the last week. And I think I'm trying to come back a little bit around on myself to where I've made it part of my criteria when I'm ranking these guys to try and give the benefit of the doubt to players who have had to take on larger roles and are certainly swinging above the belt. They're learning on the job. And if they are succeeding in certain aspects and having some performances like we've already seen with Cooper, I probably should have given him a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt last week, have updated my ranking this week to reflect that. And I don't think it's without merit because I think the defense has been awesome. I think he's been a much better decision maker than given credit for. And I think more of the shot making is going to come around in time. And I think the Mavs have started to realize maybe we need to start using him a little bit differently versus just having him sit in the corner or have to do every single thing for us offensively.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Essentially, he would be my third. I would have VJ fourth as well. Yeah, again, pre-draft, what I said about Cooper and his fit in Dallas was that, especially when Jason Kidd over the summer said like he's going to be our point guard. I did an episode with Lauren Gunn, who covers the Mavericks, and we were both like, don't do that, please. He like, not that Cooper is a bad long-term prospect as like a decision maker. Like he's a high field player and his handle's going to come along, but every 6'9", 18-year-old is going to have a bad handle by NBA standards. And at Duke, he played with Sion James and Kon Knueppel, who are obviously both doing well in Charlotte, and Tyrese Proctor, who got guaranteed that he is a guaranteed NBA full roster player for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those are three guards who can all handle and who all are very high feel, quick decision-making guards. And so Cooper was in a great position. And if there was anything that I thought was missed a little bit in, you could either say it's Cooper's eval or Kon Knueppel's eval or both. It was that I think most people thought that Cooper made everyone's life so much easier, which I think was true, but it was a symbiotic relationship.
Yep.
Sion, Kon Knueppel, Malawach, they made Cooper's life easier because they allowed Cooper to operate in the way that he wants, which is to catch the ball and have options as to where the ball can go immediately. Like Cooper wants to get the ball and be able to hurt the defense in different ways. He does not want to hold the ball. He does not want to ball stop. He wants to know if I get the ball here coming off of this sort of like a pin down where I catch the ball either like free throw extended or beyond the 3-point line, I know that I can drive immediately and like draw help that way, or I know that I can hit a skip to the corner because maybe someone has dove to the rim. Like he wants to have choices to make. He does not, like, as an NBA player, as like an NBA soul, I don't think that he really wants to be tasked with a stagnant floor where he has to sort of gin everything up. And you can view that a couple ways. You can say like, well, if he's a generational prospect, he should be able to do all that stuff. Like, I guess maybe if that's how you want to think of him, but I think that the game is going in a direction where you don't really want any player approaching the game that way, where the team's offense is so heliocentric that everyone is standing around, or maybe there's one screen set and then one brilliant player is tasked with causing the defense to react. You can play that way. Great.
Chuck, we know there's less than 5 guys in the NBA who deserve to be in that type of role.
Like
and
it's just
we don't even know the number, but yeah,
it's just so hard to play that way, you know. And so I like, and Dallas, their roster construction was bad enough that Cooper was thrown in that role. And when they get their stuff figured out and he does have more players with sort of connector chops around him, you'll see like the full package, like the multi-level scoring package, the finisher playmaker package. his ability to hit like catch and shoot threes, because he was tilted way more off the dribble than he was catch and shoot the first handful of games. Like, it'll all arrive. And I think it speaks to the player and the person that he is, that, to your point, his defensive effort has not suffered at all. Like, again,
No.
a lot of players in his spot faced with the shot not going down and the team losing and the fire Nico and all the turmoil and all that crap. Like, you could understand how the defensive mistakes might start piling up as well. Like, the lapses might start piling up. But
So if we
that's
go
not
back to Duke, right, and we kind of evaluate what was Cooper Flagg's best role. It was when, I mean, he brought the ball up for Duke occasionally, but he would immediately get off of it. He wasn't orchestrating the entire thing from start to finish. He was being brought off another action on the move and then swinging back around, and he was either kicking it out to Knueppel for an easy three, or he was hitting Kaman Malawach like you talked about in the dunker spot.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't necessarily, without Klay Thompson being Klay Thompson, he doesn't have that option right now on this Mavericks team, and he hasn't had the same dunking force in the lineup with him consistently like he would have had in Malawach. I think Lively can help him and play that role for him, but Lively hasn't been healthy. So Cooper's
right.
been doing a lot of this stuff without,
and nor has
support.
Anthony Davis. Yeah,
exactly.
Same deal. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a lot of this stuff will come back around for him when they figure some things out in the short term by getting guys back on the floor, but also, to your point, taking a longer view approach of how can we maximize Cooper's talents versus making him do what we want him to do in this specific situation.
And yet, leads all rookies in rebounds, second in assists, second in steals, third in blocks, yeah. I mean,
the race isn't close for rookie of the year, man. Like I still, if you had to make me bet on who would win it today, I would still bet Cooper Flagg. Yeah, that's who I would still put my money on.
And I imagine he is favored at like whatever odds are set anywhere. Mm-hmm. I think that Knueppel and Edgecombe have probably closed that gap considerably, but I would think that he's still the favorite, I would assume.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on Cooper? Or I imagine you have VJ fourth, unless I'm presuming.
No, I have VJ fourth, so we can pivot that into VJ. Now, I am a Philadelphia 76ers guy at heart, so I've watched the most by default of VJ than any of the other rookies in this class, although, like I said, I've taken up an appreciation for what Charlotte's doing. I've had to watch Cooper because he's Cooper. I've caught a lot of the Cedric minutes because he's been that good, but at base, I've seen the most out of VJ. And the results have certainly been up and down, right? Like, we saw VJ come out of the gate with one of the most impressive 2 to 3 game stretches for a rookie to start the year that we've seen from anyone.
Very fun. Yeah.
And that role that he played during those games was completely different than what he's played over the last, I don't know, call it 3, 4, 5 games, where the Sixers, I think, saw a lot of that success that he had early on, got very excited about force feeding him the ball a little more, putting him in different opportunities, having him run back up point guard. And it hasn't gone well. It has not gone well for him offensively. A lot of his shooting numbers have come down compared to where they were. I don't think that's by accident. He spent 82% of his minutes at shooting guard, and the Sixers are plus 6.2 points per 100 possessions. At point guard, they're minus 6.8. Points per 100 possessions. And that's not by accident. He's in the 8th percentile in pick and rolls, including passes, 30.8% on all of his jumpers off the dribble, which that number came down. I was actually really excited, Chuck, the first 2 weeks of the season when it seemed like every time VJ got 2 feet in the paint and was rising up for a jumper, that puppy was going in. That made me very excited. That success has not lasted. But as a complementary player, when he's gotten the ability to cut and attack quickly you driving off the slot, he has one man to beat. When he's been able to get out in transition, when they've had him coming off of different actions for catch and shoot threes, he's been really, really good as a complementary player. And then he's been good defensively as well. There's certain matchups that can attack him because of his size. We talked about he's much more of a guard defender than a wing defender, but I think he's been really good defensively. Better than I expected on the ball out of the gate. We know about his off-ball defensive playmaking that can come into view, but it's a lot of this higher elevated on-ball responsibility that's thrown him off whack. And I really hope that Philadelphia gets Jared McCain back as
Hmm.
soon as possible to have him play that backup point guard role more than VJ, because A, they can't have Tyrese Maxey keep playing 40 plus minutes a night. And B, you can't have VJ in this backup point guard role because it's really tanking the best things that he can do on the floor for this team. I said before the draft, I didn't see a quote unquote star outcome for VJ in terms of your traditional viewpoint as what a star looks like in the NBA. But I really thought he could be a star in his role because the best aspects about him, his athleticism, his burst, his transition ability, he can create so much for himself just by nature, but he has to be put in a position to do those things, not be this ball dominant, I'm going to run 5, 10, 15, 20 pick and rolls, and we're going to try and live with the results like that. That's not who VJ is. He's been a little miscast, and that's why he's dropped a little bit in my rankings. But if VJ was playing the same role the entire year and he was put in the same position he was to start, I feel like he'd probably still be above Cooper right now. He'd probably be at that third spot, maybe not above Kon and Cedric, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on where VJ's been at the last 3, 4, 5 games, because it's a concerning trend, and it's not necessarily a him problem. It's more of this situation around him has been manufactured problem.
It's actually, to me, it's more where I thought he'd be for like most of the season, because I thought he played. Ray J. Dennis was point at Baylor, and they had a couple other guards too. I don't remember who they were that played with him.
That's
But
not by accident. It wasn't a good backcourt, Chuck.
well, I don't mean to be mean. I'm just saying that at Baylor, you saw his connecting passing vision, which was excellent, because like so many defenses were worried about his driving ability and his ability to elevate, that if he caught the ball, again, when I say connecting, I mean like the ability to make very quick decisions once the
Yes.
ball reaches you. And when the ball reached him, so many like opposing bigs would react because they don't want to get dunked on. They want to like make sure they're showing him a body or something, or they at least want to pay attention if they have another defender between them and VJ. That like VJ could hit lobs behind opposing bigs very, very quickly. And his touch on those lobs as a passer, I thought was like really good, like
Yep.
exceptionally good. And when he came into the league, like my concern, you had him, I think you said you had him fourth, right?
I
On
had
your
him 4,
board.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably had him as low as anybody had him. I had him eighth. And I thought that he was going to be a good player, but I thought his point guard chops were going to be slow to develop,
Yep.
and that with that being the case, his size was going to hamper him early on. Like athletically, we know the deal, how like blessed of an athlete he is. But given that he is like slender and he's not like very long, probably is like
Yep.
6'8" wingspan, thereabouts, that if he's not running offense, that he can only be so impactful. But with that, that was like my prior on him. He was so good immediately and so confident, and much more confident in his handle than I expected him to be, that like I had to just like I had to give it up to him. Like I didn't really feel like I was that low on him, but he was better than I thought he was going to be immediately right out of the gate. But your point about like I think what he's going through now are like very necessary steps. If
Yep.
you want to get a top 3 outcome out of EJ, and he was drafted third, then he needs to be a 3-level scoring threat off of the dribble. I don't like he can be a good player without necessarily having like a lethal pull-up game, but you're not getting the like a return on the investment that the Sixers made unless he can operate from every area of the floor off the dribble, just given his size, in my opinion. So these are necessary growing pains that he's growing through. And I'm like, he was good enough to start the year playing alongside Maxey that to
Yep.
me, he's earned himself like a pretty long runway. Like, I was concerned that he wasn't going to be good enough to like start consistently this year because I'm a big fan of Grimes and I'm a big fan of McCain. But he
Their
has,
on-off split is still plus 9.1 points per 100 when he's on the floor, because to your point, he's shared a lot of that time with Maxey, and that's
yeah,
really helped him. But so even regardless of that fact, to your point, yeah, because they've been able to find so much success with him early on the floor, I agree 100%. He deserves the runway and the benefit of the doubt.
Right. So he is a starter for them, and that's awesome. And he should have as much runway as he needs over the next like 18 months to really beef up his point guard reads and chops and sort of like integrating this new ball handling talent that he's got with his reads and his shot making. Like it's going to take a little bit of time.
It is
So
the biggest thing with him in terms of his ability to run ball screen actions and make the most out of when he gets the step on that defender. Is a lot of that stuff is just way too quick for him. Like
mhm.
he's taken off way too quick to the basket. He's not taken off from the right spots. He has no deceleration feel right now when he's running those possessions, and it's really hurt him. He's only 50% on layups, which is below average. It's really hampered him in several different ways. But when he has that clear takeoff point, when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's just able to explode to the basket. Someone can hit him with a pocket pass and he can just go up and finish. He's a lot better. But when he has to create those opportunities for himself, be it from a ball screen, top of the floor, wherever the case may be, that type of feel in terms of I need to mix up my speeds, decelerate, hit somebody else with another move, a counter, that stuff's just not there for him right now. But I guess the encouraging part about that, to your point, is I think he's going to get better at it. And the only way you get better at it is if you're given the ability to actually
Right.
explore that space. And he can earn that time to be able to do that because he's been effective in other areas.
Well, and that was the case at Baylor too. His whole
Mm-hmm.
thing at Baylor was that when he would drive, he would like take off early, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you have that sort of athleticism, it's
Yep.
tempting to just sort of elevate, like when in doubt, elevate.
Right.
And he would not do much to manipulate the defense late in his drive.
Yep.
Like you mentioned deceleration, but even like Euro steps, I didn't see much out of him. It was sort of like,
Correct.
here I come. And if a defender could steer his body one way or the other, like he could, like the defender could create a bad angle for VJ. And before VJ knew it, he's floating through the air, but at a bad angle towards the hoop. And it affected his layup numbers at Baylor. Like they were
It's funny to try and when he tries to like slow down. You mentioned he doesn't really have like a Euro step type of game right now. Like when he's trying to slow himself down, it's like he's doing a drill, like a run, stand, and still drill, where he's trying to
right.
like literally stop himself from falling
Right.
into the first row. Yeah,
And
it's
it's
funny.
not like to compare him to another player from last year's rookie class who's sort of at the other end of the spectrum. Steph Castle has this incredible decel game
Oh,
now and like showed it throughout his rookie year. Like decel that is on like a different level than like most NBA players, period, because Castle is a tank and he's
mm-hmm.
like an easy 210, 215 and has so much power through his hips and through his legs that he can like literally stop on a dime. He can
Yep.
stop his drive and freeze and his body doesn't like explode or tumble and he lets defenders fly by and he can finish. And VJ either has not repped that out, or since VJ is like 195 pounds and not 215, he just doesn't have the force to stop himself once he gets going, at least not yet. And I want to shout out he's at Polar Fall. I think Skyfall might be
I was going to
his
bring up the
Abby.
same tweet thread. He did a fantastic thread
Right.
about the takeoff point and everything we're seeing from VJ.
And
Yep.
he chained it to the fact that VJ's not comfortable when he's like dribbling close to his body. In other words, when a defender crowds him and he has to keep that dribble close, he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have enough confidence in it to explode out of it. So you
Yep.
can slow him down by doing that, and that's what forces that takeoff point to
Yep.
occur earlier than you'd like. But again, these are physical micro skills. The confidence in his jumper, excellent. The
Yep.
space creation in the mid range for his jumper, excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Connector passing vision, excellent. His recovery tools and ability to offer some supplementary rim protection, excellent. Like,
Yep.
badass player, awesome. And they will, I do think, like the best version of the Sixers, you're going to want to stagger him and Maxi like a healthy amount just because you don't burn one or the other out. So he does have steps to take, but like a great duo, Sixers fans should be thrilled. Like he's awesome. VJ's awesome.
Another player before we move to someone else who has been a low mistake player. Like he's played 448 minutes and he has a turnover rate less than 12.
That's
Given
right.
all of the offensive responsibility they've just taken on for better or worse, he hasn't coughed up the ball a lot and given opponents easy runouts and transition to burn them on the other end. So kudos to VJ for that specific aspect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think you mentioned low mistake. So maybe we do have the same fifth player. This was the first slot where I thought we might differ, but who's your number 5?
My fifth player is Dylan Harper. And
okay, so we do differ. All right, go ahead.
I didn't have Dylan in my last edition of the ranking because he's been out with injury and he still is, but I thought more on it, and if I had to vote on a all rookie first team today, like if the season ended today, Harper would be on that all rookie first team for me. And so that's why I still have him at 5, because when he's played for the Spurs, to me, my eye, he's been awesome. He's in the 84th percentile in pick and rolls, including passes, 92nd percentile in transition scoring, but an absolute blur up and down the floor. He's hit 46.7% of his catch and shoot threes. He's only taken 15 of them, but still he's making them. He's about 55% at the rim, a 25 assist rate, 25 usage rate, and the Spurs have been plus 15.1 points per 100 possessions better with Harper on the floor. And the best, in my opinion, is still yet to come, because we've only seen 48 possessions with him, Wemby, and Castle all on the floor, and they're an absurd plus 69.4 points per 100 possessions, which is
that like in small, like 35 minutes? Like what is that?
I don't know the minute count, but it's 48 possessions. So listen, everything we're talking about, Chuck, is small sample size theater. That's what the name of this podcast should be. But still, like, I have so much confidence, and like the Wemby Dylan Harper 2-man game that we've already seen developing. I think as long as he's hitting the catch and shoot shot, you can put him and Castle in the backcourt together. I think Harper's been not great defensively in the backcourt, but I think solid to good. And you throw all of that together on top of the type of usage he's already commanded, running a lot of pick and rolls with the Spurs, handling the ball, scoring in transition, being an absolute beast getting to the basket. You talked about the deceleration game that VJ doesn't have. Dylan Harper already has all of that in spades. He can split the pick and roll at a whim, loves to go to that Euro step game. He has been as awesome as I would have expected him to be coming out of the gate. And I think once he gets back healthy and on the floor, I think his game's only going to keep getting better and better and better. And listen, I had him number 2 on my board. Loved him as a prospect. Love him already as an NBA player. He has been awesome.
Yeah, he was number 3 on my board behind Cooper and Kon. He was better in those first 6 games operating off the ball than I expected him to be. I didn't think at Rutgers that he was necessarily bad off the ball, but I thought he expended so much energy on the ball that when he was off of it, like it almost just looked like he didn't have enough left in the tank to really like cut super hard. And I mean, it's also because you didn't have the secondary ball handler who could really set him up. But
Chuck, that Rutgers situation, that I've been scouting prospects for now. We're in year 15, and that was, in terms of a situation that I've had to watch that many times because there were top prospects on the team, that was the worst situation I've seen for a top prospect in those 15 years.
I'm not disagreeing.
He had to have the ball in his hands.
He did, but like,
I know what you mean, though. I know.
But like, how low did you have Ace then?
I had Ace at 5.
So you really liked them both. Like I had Ace, like I think I said I had Ace at 9. I had Dylan at 3. And I not to get on a Rutgers tangent, but like I do think that the old head kind of like, why was Rutgers 12th in the Big Ten if they had 2 top whatever picks? I do think that held some merit, but that's a different.
But the context was so bad, Chuck. I couldn't
played with a freshman big all year. Like it was rough. It was rough for sure. I think. But my read on Dylan coming into the league was I thought that he needed to sort of get himself in stronger, better shape to withstand not only the physicality leap, but the fact that his role was going to have to change. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to get a better situation than playing with Wembanyama. You know, save maybe for Jokic. And his cuts and his finishing, his patience, his timing on all of that stuff, I thought was really, really good. Like you mentioned, the catch and shoot three went in.
Yep.
So that's great. And I saw stretches from him where he was competing so well on both ends because I thought he was a good defensive prospect, but maybe again, I overlooked some defensive value because I think he expended so much offensive energy
Yep.
that like you didn't quite get to see the full package all of the time. But I thought his defense has already looked good, like very
Yeah.
encouraging, bought into that team's identity. I heard Zach Lowe kind of say that he and Castle and Fox are a good problem to have. I don't know that I
Yes.
necessarily agree with that. I just think that Fox is not ultimately going to be a fit on that team, but maybe time will prove me
Well,
wrong.
that's why he's technically correct when he's saying it's a good problem to have. We know what the answer to the problem is. It just has to play itself out.
Well,
But
but if that's right, I don't think under Fox's contract there's a robust market for him. That's the thing. He's any sort of point guard who makes 40 million a year who
mhm.
isn't a great fit on their team. You're going to struggle to find a suitor. But that again,
I agree. The good news for the Spurs is they still have so many assets left in the war chest that it's
that's
not
true.
going to hinder them in the same way it would another franchise who made the same mistake. So,
That is true. That is fair. I think that if Harper had been healthy this whole time, he'd be in the top five for me too. He'd probably
mhm.
be above VJ. He'd probably be like at lowest at third. I mean, he was averaging 14, 4, and 4 essentially on 50, 35, 83, 2-1 assist to turnover ratio. Like really excellent. Like you could start to talk yourself into like, well, if he stays healthy, could he be in the sixth man of the year discussion if the Spurs are good enough, like as a rookie? So Dylan's been wonderful. I think where Dylan ultimately goes as a player, again, if you're returning tippity top draft value, then he is starting and you are putting more decision making in his hands because
Mhm.
though I've been encouraged by his defensive prowess, I don't think he's like an all NBA or pardon me, an all defense
Completely
player
agree.
down the
It's
line.
it's not that he's doing anything special on defense. It's more so that you can't pick on him in traditional ways that you can another point guard. That's what the benefit is.
Right. And I think you can, though ultimately Wemby, they're going to rise and fall with Wemby.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how Harper and Castle, you mentioned that number, how like over a longer sample, you see the decision making split between them. I think they are
Yep.
both selfless enough to not sort of insist on a bigger piece of the usage pie. But I also think that there are enough questions with sort of the catch and shoot jumper of each one that they're going to have to get creative. We'll see
I
what that
I
is.
want I want Harper and Castle on the floor together more
So
though
do I.
because I want the ball out of Castle's hands a little bit because that turnover rate has been sky high to start the season and it's because he's taking on a larger burden than I think he probably should be within an NBA construct, but to have another guy like Harper who can split those touches with him as a by default can hopefully cut that turnover rate down quite a bit, then I think you're able to maximize Castle a bit more because I do think similar to like how we talked about you can use Kon in different ways, you can use Castle in different ways, especially as a screener. I think there's different ways in which you can use him with Harper having the ball in his hands. You can utilize Castle, and then if in turn if Harper's hitting that catch and shoot three, then you're able to put the ball in Castle's hands and still not necessarily hamper your team from a spacing perspective.
Would you, and understanding you're a Sixers fan, would you rather have Maxi Edgecombe or Harper Castle?
That's such a great question. I'm a Tyrese Maxey sucker, so I think the answer is
I
that
I
because
don't think you have to
Maxey
say
is.
sucker. You could say
I think
scholar. You
Matt
know him. You know how good he is.
Maxey has so far up to this point been on the same level as like a Brunson Mitchell. Like he's been that good. And I think if you have that player, I want that player regardless of who the second guy is. But I do not say that to insult Harper and Castle, because I think Castle, I loved Castle coming into that draft. He was my number 2 or 3. I always get the order. I had Sar and Buzelis and Castle as my top 3 guys that
Oh my
entire cycle
God.
from start to finish.
What a W, you know?
I mix up Buzelis and Castle, but he was either 2 or 3 for me. So I love Stefan Castle.
That's a very good 3 to have at the top of that draft. Was not the 3 that I had, but that's a very good 3 to have. Shout out Zach Edey. Get healthy, big fella.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I don't think there's a right answer. I would probably lean Maxi Edgecombe myself, but I can obviously see just sort of the size in terms of especially where the game is going, what you would want in the playoffs. The positional size of Harper and Castle is something very big.
If Carter Bryant can hit threes at any point,
Yeah,
that team will be absurd defensively. Like they will.
I think
they will be almost as, if not as scary as OKC.
That's what I'm saying. I think the only team with a credible argument to like overtaking OKC as the number 1 defense in the league at any point in the next like 2 or 3 years is the Spurs.
Yep,
And
agree.
all due respect to like Detroit and Houston, anyone else in that discussion, but I think the talent in San Antonio, if it can stay on the floor together, is there.
Stupid.
I think it's good enough. Okay, I would have had Harper 6th probably. My 5th would have been Kalkbrenner. And you and I probably agree on what to say about Kalkbrenner because he's so low usage and he's done so well in his role.
He's number 6 for me, so we flipped him.
Yeah. I want to shout out the fact that Kalkbrenner has 11 steals in addition to leading all rookies in blocks. Like he is not a statue, and that number comes from just being able to position himself correctly and drop, read passing lanes, and his wingspan is like 7'6", 7'7". I had Kalkbrenner at the end of my first round, and I wrote at draft time I may be 15 spots too low on him, but I chained that possibility to him shooting threes, and he hasn't shot threes yet, but he's still been like so good as a finisher and so reliable as a backline defender that like I would, that my ranking was already wrong on him. And I've heard different discussions about like, is he destined to just be a rotational center on a good team, or can he actually start? And to that, I would say, I think there are very few centers in the NBA who are not like rotational on a good team. I think in the playoffs, if we're talking about good teams, you play matchup ball so much with your bigs that the only guys who are going to start and close games and play 35 minutes a night at 5 are like offensive hubs or like all defense centers. I think that's basically
100%. The separator between bigs in terms of who is a quality starter versus an all-star generally is ball handling ability, with the rare exception of like Gobert.
So, and I think this is why, not the only reason, but I think it's a reason why the Cleveland Cavaliers have not gotten over the hump as much as I love Jared Allen, because I do love Jared Allen. I really do. And he has outstanding touch as well, not only around the rim, but like from 15 feet and in. Like he capitalizes on every margin possible, but it's not too long in the playoffs until Cleveland runs into a team that can space 5 out, which they won't do with Jared Allen, or they run into like some really physically imposing center like Mitchell Robinson or whomever. And Allen is so good at so many things, but doesn't really crack the ball handling or necessarily the all defense tier that other teams, when you hear the other teams like not being afraid of Cleveland, I think that's where a lot of it comes from. And they can still win 55 games in the regular season in their sleep. But
Mhm.
I think that they don't need to trade Jared Allen, but I do think they need to become more comfortable with the idea that he does not necessarily close every playoff game with them. And if that's what Kalkbrenner becomes, like he's not closing every playoff game, but he's in the playoffs playing 25 minutes a night and he is sitting for a more offensively dynamic five, like that could be a top 10 outcome in the draft class. Again, down the line. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who has come into the league, except for like Wembanyama, as a center prospect recently who can like finish around the rim as purely and as well as Kalkbrenner already can. So that alone, even if he didn't have the deflections and the rim protection, would be enough to like mention him. But I think he's done like those extra things have propped him up to the point where I'd have him 5, you have him 6.
I would have, so the reason why I don't have Kalkbrenner higher, like even higher than 5, because I think the defensive impact has been that good to where you could make an argument that, few players in this class have had more of an ultimate impact on how their games fare up to this point in the rookie class than Kalkbrenner has. He's not asked to do much of anything offensively other than literally touch the ball over the basket and like put it in. Like that's literally what his role has been. He does have a 23.6% turnover rate, so he's been not involved at all in the passing game when teams have crowded him, thrown multiple defenders at him, aka he hasn't just been able to go right up with it. He's had any time to gather himself, and teams have doubled him. That's been a problem. But his impact defensively, Chuck, has just been so good. They're 10.4 points better per 100 when he is on the floor defensively. He's in the 84th percentile in terms of opponent rim attempt frequency when he's been on the floor, deterring those shots from even getting shots at the basket. He's second in the NBA in block rate already as a rookie. And you talked about the finishing has just been absurd. He's 83% from the field. So you chalk all of that up. He's been good on the glass. He's been incredible as a rim protector and a deterrent. The otherworldly finishing, like I can't have him any lower than 6th in these rankings. If there was a little bit more to his game offensively, I would have him higher. I just, again, when I'm trying to rate out the rookies, I like to reward guys who are taking on a little bit more, swinging above their belt. And if there are any semblances of them getting results out of swinging above the belt, I'm going to reward those guys more. But Kalkbrenner's been absurd. He's been insane.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So who would be, are your next two in some order Queen and Fears?
They are.
Okay.
I have Queen and then Fears.
That as would I. This is depressingly depressingly agreeable. But go ahead. Go ahead on Queen and Fears.
Queen. Well, no, I want you to talk the most about Queen because he was one of your biggest guys before the draft last year.
Yeah,
you and Corey Tulaba would sing his praises at any chance you got. And I did not go out on Queen completely, but I had him a little bit lower on my board. I think I had him at 10th on my final board. I didn't have him as like a top 5 guy, but I mean, what Queen has already done for the Pelicans, not even starting yet, where that's going to become an interesting conversation, I think, pretty soon if it hasn't already. He's in the 83rd percentile at his position in terms of usage rate per cleaning the glass and his minutes played. That team is plus 19 points per 100 better with him on the floor versus off. He has been much better at center versus power forward in his minutes, which I think lines up to some of what I expected from him pre-draft. He has a 15.1% rebound rate, 17.2 assist rate, 2.2 steal rate, 2.8 block rate. He has gotten his hands in the cookie jar and a little bit of everything on both sides of the ball, and he's done it well up to this point. Like the only thing, in my opinion, that he hasn't done that I would want to see a little bit more of is shoot the basketball. That was a little bit of his weakness coming into the draft. I didn't necessarily expect that to be something that would shine for him through his first however many games as a rookie. That's something I'll be watching out for. But everything else in terms of his herky-jerkiness on offense, his ability to get guys off balance, convert around the basket or on those short-range shots of his defensive playmaking, his hand-eye coordination, his awareness, his processing, it's all shine in a big way for the Pelicans in his minutes that he's played. And I will say this. I am not in love with prospects who you have to monitor their conditioning very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a pretty fair criticism. But if that's not in question with someone like Queen, they're able to keep themselves in shape, play themselves into shape consistently. We're just letting the basketball speak for itself. Queen he's a special player. There's no two ways to go about it.
He specials right. I mean, I'd say that Queen. I'm almost like I love a lot of what I've seen from him, but I'm also like how because he got hurt too, and he missed his whole like summer more or less after
Mm-hmm.
summer league because he got his wrist, I think was what was hurt. He again came back quicker than I thought he'd be available, and the injury doesn't look like it's hampered him, but he's still like the fact that he can do what he's doing where he looks like he's arguably like in worse shape than he was at the combine when he did not perform well because of the shape that he was in. Like he just looks he has so many blessings in his game. His mind is
Mm-hmm.
so advanced. Like he has such a good feeling for what a defender is coached to do and how they're going to react to something
Mm-hmm.
and how to manipulate that to create a look for himself or to create a passing window. It's such a special brain, and like you mentioned, the touch and his coordination is so good, but what he could be doing if he were in better shape is like add a real bully ball aspect to his game, which is I
Mm-hmm.
think his game is like begging for that, and I think he has the mean streak for it. But playing bully ball is not as simple as hunting a mismatch. Like
No.
your wind has to be up to play that
Yep.
way because you're going to be like banging. And in order to play that way, it's going to be physically taxing, even if
Mm-hmm.
you're the aggressor. And I think he really needs to add that. And once he does, when he can be just more of a force under the rim because he's creating that force and creating easier angles for himself to finish. Like that's when you could see him become an all-star. I'm also
Yeah.
assuming that if he gets in good enough shape to play bully ball, that'll make him a more viable defensive player. But like that's when you compare him to someone like Shengun. Shengun had physical limitations, but he was always like in shape to play. There was
Mm-hmm.
never any question about that. So, and he was always like tough and feisty and physical. It's the physicality from Derik that I'm really looking for moving forward. But yeah, like I said with Knueppel, like the feel and the processing and the ability to manipulate the NBA jacks all that up because even a team like New Orleans is going to be well spaced relative to what Derik had at Maryland. So, I mean, his timing on defense and his positioning, all that stuff is underrated about him, and I love him, but it's like a dangerous level of love where like I don't want him to hurt me. I just want him to to get stronger, get in better shape, and play bully ball. So
Some guys, few guys, but some guys just roll out of bed and they can just get on a court and it's like they just know what they're doing and they can just
yeah,
acclimate themselves to any situation. And it's crazy that like Queen could the Shengun comparison honestly was like the only one for me in my opinion to really like try and make with him because he's that unique. It's more of a he is that unique rather than I don't want to put some other comps up, but Shengun was the easiest comp to make. And I don't know if he's going to end up being that good. But what I will say is that I mentioned it a few minutes ago. The separator for a lot of bigs between are you a quality starter versus an all star is the ball handling ability and the ability to take on that type of burden, that playmaking burden. And can you run with it and make it sing? And Queen has that ability to do so because he is so smooth and slick with the ball in his hands at his size and
yeah.
just the way that he gets guys off balance and makes guys go one direction, he goes the other direction. It really is awesome to watch when he's at his best.
I You saw his dust up with whoever it was, Nick Richards and Dylan Brooks. the other night.
Mhm.
Like I want him to play Dylan Brooks every game. I want someone to piss him off so much that he's like, all right, like guess let's go lift weights. I gotta go, like,
Yeah.
like I just whatever takes him to that point, I I want that to be in his life. So anyway, I've said it. But yeah, what do you want to say about Fears?
Fears has just been a lot better out of the gate than I could have expected. We know rookie guards often struggle a lot, and he's certainly had some up and down moments. His game last night, he was spectacular. He had 19
Eight
points,
steals is
eight steals last night.
sheesh.
He had a great, but listen, I think his defense has been a lot better before that game than we can even bring the 8 steals into. I'm not saying he's been like an all world defender in the backcourt, but teams have routinely hunted him on defense,
Mm-hmm.
like routinely targeted him, and he's held his own, which I think is a world's difference compared to where he was at Oklahoma, which is I don't know how engaged he wants to be on defense. I don't know what his impact's ever going to be on that side of the ball. He's been so much better there that it makes living through some of the growing pains offensively worth it to get to the other side, because it's not just, oh, you're not able to do these things offensively quite yet, and you're going to lose us like an absurd amount of points per 100 on the other side of the court, then we can't give you the runway you need to develop as a point guard. That hasn't been the case. And so with Fears, I think the defense has been a very positive call out for him. I like a lot of what he's done in the pick and roll. He's like I talked about towards the top of this pod, he's fearless. And I think that's in a good way. He's willing to try new things and live with the results and come back the next 1, 2, 3, 4 possessions and sort of mix up that experiment, learn from his mistakes and try different things. The shot's going to be up and down all year. We knew that coming in. The rim finishing is going to be a little bit up and down all year, depending on whether he's, getting one man to beat or he's trying to attack a tree and finish over it. The results are going to be mixed. But I think overall, as a point guard running an NBA team for the first time, he's been better than I expected him to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you ended up with Fears on your board. Queen might have been, now that I think about it, Queen might have been either 9 or 11. I think I might have ended with Fears at 10. I knew one way or the other, dude, that Fears was going to come back to bite me no matter what. Either he was going to be way better than I had him ranked on the board, or he was going to be way worse. And, I was never going to be right about him. I still kind of feel that way, but it's been really fun to watch him over these first however many games in the NBA.
Yeah, he would like that would be my biggest like low miss. Like my most I guess I would have underrated him the most relative to anyone else based on how he's played so far. Because I had him 18th, I think. And
Okay.
it's the same reason I end up dropping like smallish guards a lot around draft
Yep.
time. And when I do go in on them, like I had Shepard very high in 2024, that's looking better. I had Collier right behind Shepard, looking not so good. Like if you don't have, again, mention it with Edgecombe, but like the real 3 level scoring chops, then it's going to be tough. And Fears had shot making, but the 3 didn't fall as frequently as you'd like. And it's not like he was an athletic freak at
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma, but he was also like he had reclassified. He was a child. He's going to be 19. He's not going to turn 20 until I think October of next year. So you had to budget that in as well. And I saw the talent and was tempted to put him like in the top 7 a couple times,
Yeah.
but could never, like, I just couldn't bring myself to do it in this draft with like as many wings and bigs to make bets on. I just kept sort of nudging him down. But
I'm with you. I actually looked at my board. So I had him at 10. I had Queen at 9. I had Fears at 10. But I had Fears in that same range for a lot of the cycle because
yeah.
I did not love his process in college when he got downhill. I never feel like he drove with a plan in mind. I thought it was kind of just whatever. I'm just going to try to tackle it.
Mm-hmm.
We've still seen some of those results in the NBA so far, but I think he's done a much better job at picking his spots, getting downhill as opposed to what he did in college. I think there is way more of an out for him, like a second read he can make in the NBA versus a lot of what he did at Oklahoma. So I think that aspect of his game has certainly helped him, and he's started to answer some of the questions I had for him in college. But yeah, ultimately I decided to just bet on the talent. And I'm like, I'm just gonna put you a 10. I'm probably gonna be wrong no matter what. We'll see how this goes. But kudos
Yeah.
to him and the Pelicans benefit. He's actually been a very pleasant surprise with this rookie class.
Yeah, I think first of all, I agree that he's been a pleasant surprise, and I think that he's hung physically better immediately than I thought he
Yeah,
would. I agree that in half court settings, he's not so easy to hunt and he's competitive. And I like they've, in the same way that Charlotte flipped the switch on Kon, they flipped the switch on Fierce compared to like Jordan Poole pretty quick. We'll see. I get DeJounte Murray should be back at some point. We'll see if they eventually shift Fierce to the bench for Murray and start like Murray, Herb, Trey, Zion, Queen, maybe
Pro-
is what you see second half of the year.
yeah,
But the the thing with Fears is because he prefers to work inside the arc so much, which he does do. Like that is his tendency as a player, is to sort of probe inside the arc as a playmaker, shot maker. Is that because his physicality is okay and he's young, but he's never going to be like a freak guard athlete. He's not going to be one of the 10 most athletic starting point guards in the NBA. Like that means that when he gets into his layup package, he needs to be elite. Because if you
sure.
start driving and missing layups in the league and you're not a great athlete, the other team can get out on 5-on-4s and punish you very quickly. And it's tough because like you want to generate layups, of course. Like that's what modern
Mm-hmm.
basketball is you want to generate as many layups as possible. It's just that I that's my ultimate concern with Fears is that is the shot that he is hunting the most, but I don't know that he creates enough separation and has enough touch to be elite at it. And I think that it will start to cost them on the other end if he isn't elite. But that's
I'd push back slightly, not a ton, just slightly, and say that he has gotten into a better habit of looking for some pull up jumpers when he touches the paint versus trying to get all the way to the rim. And he's hit
mm-hmm.
42.5% on those 2 point shots. So like that's not a bad number for a rookie guard off the bounce. So
No, it's
think
not. It's not. And
to
he
that
had
point,
like yeah.
that's a little more of what he has to mix in versus to your point, like always trying to crash into the trees.
And I agree. It's not a bad number, and he had real shot making talent in the mid range
Mm-hmm.
at Oklahoma. I'm just saying, like, he can't just be good at it.
Yeah.
He has to be great at that stuff. And that's the margins that he's working with. A
I
very
also don't think like there's a way to compromise for him. Like if you're a point guard in the NBA in 2 days game, you have to be able to hit threes off the bounce. In my
yeah.
opinion, that is also going to have to be there for him at some point, or else you're not going to be able to get the results you want in terms of running a high level NBA offense. So,
Yeah. I mean, but time will tell. Like
yep.
it's gonna have to go in, but time will tell. I like
Mm-hmm.
his competitiveness. He hasn't seemed too despondent or anything in that situation in New Orleans, which is not good, but encouraged. And I enjoy
Yep.
watching him play. I think in spite of everything else that the Pels are going through, they are a fun watch with him and Queen, obviously with Trey and Herb and everything. So yeah, we have two more spots left.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have in your final two here?
At 9 and 10, I closed out my rankings with Colin Murray Boyles and Trey Johnson. With
Okay.
the honorable mentions being Sion and Will Richard, which, listen, Chuck, when I do these rankings, sometimes I like to go out to 15 players because there's just so many guys I want to talk about and just say positive words about. This class is so stacked. It literally was breaking me to try and figure out who was going to come in at 9 and 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why I went Colin Murray Boyles and Trey Johnson is because I've seen them be a little bit more involved with things, especially of late offensively, than I've seen from Sion and Will. Although Sion and Will have both had standout games in their own right. Sion much more in a complementary, I'll run an occasional pick and roll here and there. Will literally had a 30-point game for the Golden State Warriors. So I want to give those two younger guys the benefit of the doubt, but that's not to take anything away from either of those other two guys if you had either of those two guys in those last two spots or both of them.
Yeah, I would have had, I guess, Will 9 and Trey 10.
Okay,
probably, if I am picking. And
sure.
nothing, I mean, I like CMB. I had CMB fourth pre-draft. I like him more than like most of the people that we've said. I just, in terms of how he has been used and how he has played, he's also been banged up a little bit. Like, I just
Yep.
don't think he's hit his groove yet. But yeah, I'd have
He
Will for my
hasn't,
trade 10.
and I do think I think he's been pretty awesome though when they don't play him at center. I think everything else they've done other than those minutes have been good for the Raptors from a rookie perspective. A lot of that small ball stuff still has to be figured out. The good news is that was way more experimental because Jakob Poeltl was missing time. Now Poeltl's back on the floor. The defense looks a lot better. That team looks a lot better in general. And I think you can let Colin roam the floor a little bit more rather than being like the sole man in the middle in those smaller lineups.
Yeah, look, man, he's gotten up 18 threes already, which is, I guess, two a game. Encouraging, not necessarily, I think, where it will need to be ultimately for him, but he is taking them, and he's hit like 50% of them, which
He's
is
making them.
hilarious.
Yeah, man, he's
But
making them. The shot looks a lot better compared to where it was. It's cleaner, it's smoother, it's more one motion rather than you saw a hesitated hitch in some of those shots at South Carolina. It looks a lot better for him. I'm glad that he's confident in stepping into him because I agree with you. That is a shot that needs to be in his arsenal if the small ball five stuff isn't going to be something that works for him in the NBA.
well, and that's the thing. It's weird. I think that he does need to be a small ball five, but if he's not a small ball five, he's such a weird player. He could be like a weird hub that does play with another center because he can guard opposing point guards. And that's not to say that he's like bringing the ball up as a point guard, but his ability to guard opposing guards and as good a passer as he is makes me think that you could run, I don't know, on that team. You could probably run like Murray Boyles, Scotty, Ingram, Hurdle lineups
Mm-hmm.
with whatever RJ Barrett or Grady Dick or I guess Quickly is more of a natural point, but
Yep.
like some shooter in that fifth spot and be okay. Cause I don't know. Maybe that's more down the line for when Collins like NBA scoring package is more polished, but it's not just small ball five for him. His defensive versatility is good enough that I think he can be more offensively versatile even as a
Mm-hmm.
relatively low volume 3-point shooter. He's not the athletic talent that like Amen Thompson is, who compensates in all these different ways because Amen's a freak. But Colin has so much versatility and talent on defense that I think it will manifest its way in lineup versatility eventually. Maybe the Raptors need to get more shooting balance on their team to realize it, but I do think it's in there. Um, you mentioned Will already a couple times. We love Will Richard. You know, you and I both love Will. I think just again, what most people have said for him in terms of fitting into the Golden State brand of ball. We talked about physical confidence with Cedric Coward. I see a similar confidence with Will Richard, which is more to be expected, you know, given his time at Florida, winning a national title, playing in a ton of big games with them. But the quick trigger from three is there, you know,
Yep.
his cutting is there, his rebounding's there, connector passing's there. Like he's just a good player. I could get froggy and say like they should just start him and bench Podchemsky and have that just like make that decision. I don't know that I even feel all the way confident about that, but I don't feel so wrong as to not mention it as a possibility. So I think that he is such a low mistake, reliable player who is so selfless that I think he can force that kind of a discussion. And I think that sort of a discussion should be had. But love Will, and we can talk about Trey a little bit longer since we both had him. Or no, you did have him because you had him in college.
I had Trey 10, but it was very hard for me to not put Sion in that 10th spot. Like
I love
very hard.
Sion too. Yeah, it's Sion is
The
great.
thing with him though, dude, is like guys who are built like Mack trucks generally are not good at navigating screens. and getting through screens as well
Right.
as he
You
can.
get
And
Shemi
it's
Ojelade. Yeah.
it's unbelievable how good he is at it. It's
Yeah.
truly unbelievable. Special defensive skill of his on top of having all of the secondary, tertiary creator ability as a ball handler, as a live dribble passer. And when he's hitting all the spot up shots that he is, his ridiculous percentages are going to come down at some point. But when he's hitting those shots, he just looks like a bona fide 10+ year role player in the NBA, which is what I wrote before the draft for NoCeilingsNBA.com on my famous So You Think You Can Be a Role Player series, where I tried to evaluate different positional archetypes and go back and look at prior examples as to what's worked in the NBA from that type of perspective and why it worked. And Sion was one of the guys, along with Kon in that same piece. I pushed them together in the wing category of guys who I thought would work for those reasons in that archetype. And I sung Sion's praises, and yet I failed to rank him, as we were talking about before we got in this podcast, where he anywhere close to where he probably should have ranked. I think I also had him in the 30s. But that being said, he has been spectacular, and I think he's going to be a long-term NBA role player.
Yeah, I had him in the third. I had him and Will both in the 30s. I think we can all just feel fine about that. That's around where Sion was taken. Like, that's fine. You just don't want to have Sion in like the 60s. That's the real miss.
Sure.
You know?
Fair.
It's okay. It's these low usage, we mentioned it again before we recorded, but like Will Richard, Keon Ellis,
Yep.
Sion, Pella Larson,
Yep.
these guys who found NBA roles despite being lower usage upperclassmen on their college programs, like that's just, you just have to acknowledge that lower usage doesn't mean that you can't play in the NBA anymore.
Exactly.
You need to have the decision making and the shooting talent and the physical talent. But if you do, then you can play, period. So
you got to watch the tape to figure that out, baby. Got to good old watch the tape.
I have nothing to say about the discourse between stats and eye test. I think it is extremely silly. But yes, I enjoy watching basketball, and I will continue to do that to inform my decision making. I'll say for Trey Johnson, I think one of the more puzzling integrations of a rookie in the league is Trey Johnson on the Wiz. They've begun to start him, which is good. I think even with McCollum and Middleton back, I think they are still starting him, but I guess Koulibaly just went out again. So it's not as though they've had their full complement.
Yep.
So maybe I'm giving the Wizards too much credit in leaning into Trey, because they, I would think
they've been good. They've been good when they have leaned into him. They're 13.4 points per 100 better with him on the floor. Him, Sarr, and Keyshawn George are only negative 0.1 points per 100 possession. All three of them sharing the court.
So like
together
about
for
they're about
233 possessions.
Even. Yeah,
that is correct. You can call them a draw even wash, whatever the case you want to be. But for a team that has the record that the Wizards do, I'd say those are pretty good results and a sign of maybe something we should lean more into as we continue to go throughout the season.
Well, it's also like, again, internally for the Wiz, like whoever's the coaching staff or front office or whatever, Sarr was picked second. You could say what you want about the quality of prospects that year, but he was picked second, and Trey was picked sixth. And those are your two like highest profile selections. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand, especially given the fact that you need shot making on the team, why you would bring Trey off the bench. And it might be in the past now, and Trey's going to start every other game as a Wizard, and good. If that, it surprised me that it took as long as it did, because I think the offense needs it. And I think even when he was playing off the bench, they were like parking him in the corner, in my opinion, way too much. His playmaking has not been good yet as he's tried to find his footing, and I still think he is getting out of some bad habits at Texas about sort of ball stopping in the mid-range, because he is such a good shot maker there.
To that point, he's in pick and roll possessions that he's run. He's in the 80th percentile so far as a scorer. Mm-hmm. That number comes down to the 53rd percentile when you factor in passes. So you can look at that two ways. You can say that 53rd number is actually pretty good for someone who we're not pegging into an on-ball role early in their career. But when you also consider how effective he's been as a shot maker when he's looking to score versus factoring in the passing, you can actually look at that as a pretty big fall off and detriment, like you're talking about.
Part of that is teammate oriented as well, because they don't have like a bunch of snipers on their team to
The
bring
guard
that
room's also just a
percentile up.
mess in
But like
general.
it's also that, like, I don't know, Trey is not, unlike a lot of the guys we've talked about, Kon, Sion, Will Richard, VJ. He's not the ball does not pop with him. I think that he is a pretty good pick and roll player. And I thought when he was given an advantage like that at Texas, he could spray to corners and be
Yep.
like a legitimately good passer. It's more like if he catches the ball and someone is closing out on him, how quickly does he act? Or does he just rise up? Or does he
Yep.
pass before the window is really open, or pass after it has closed, sort of thing? And that stuff will work itself out. But the way that the Sixers have sort of taken the plunge in giving VJ backup point guard minutes and just, this is going to happen if we're going to get the return on investment. I think that Trey is a bit different. Either they need to do that and give him more playmaking reps, because I think Trey has more to unlock there and more value to give them. Or he needs to average like 12 threes attempted a game. Like, he needs to get them up. That is the reason, like, his shooting talent and his release and his sort of all court domain as a shot maker is why he was drafted as high as he was. It's why he was that good a prospect. So they need to get him on the move. And Trey is enough
Yep.
of a workout psycho that he can do that. And like, I want them to tilt their offense more towards him, not necessarily in terms of touches, but in terms of intent. Like, they need to fully intend on weaponizing him, like
Yep.
possession after
Yep.
possession after possession. And I
Well,
love Keyshawn.
it's like what we're talking about with Khan, right? And he's not Khan, but
Right.
in some similar line of dialogue, they need to figure out ways to get him touches with the ball. And I think they have guys who can do that. It's just more of in a non-traditional sense. Like Sar's actually been a really good passer from the big spot this year.
He's been awesome this year. Yeah.
Keyshawn George could be their best answer at point guard, to be honest with you. Like, they're going to feed those minutes to CJ McCollum the most, first and foremost.
Yo, shout
And
out
then
Will
Bob,
Riley on the go-go, man. Play Will, but go ahead. Yeah.
25 points, 7 assists in a go-go game yesterday. Let's do it. But yeah, so I think they have answers to get him the ball in non-traditional ways, but they have to be committed to doing so, to like you're talking about. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
It's just, yeah, like, get him. They could do this to a lesser degree with Bub Carrington too, but like, just get them sprinting around the perimeter. Make other teams track them, or like lock and trail them or whatever. Just gin something up. Just Trey Johnson should not be standing around. He
Yep.
really shouldn't be. And I want to see that change more aggressively. But it's still early. I don't mean to end this on like a grouchy note between like him and Queen and everything. It's what I'm looking for, because I think he's got it in him to be such like a unique weapon that is off ball first and then on ball second, but still effective in both categories. And I would just want to see it. That's all.
100%. We're in agreement.
All right. So you mentioned Sion as a shout out.
Yep.
I'm just trying to see, like, the Ace is starting now. Shout out
Ace
to
Bailey's
Ace.
the other name. He's
Yeah.
coming. He's coming.
Um, it's hard for Walter Clayton to really crack what Keontae George got out to in Utah to start. He has to contend with Collier now that he's healthy as well. But I think Walter's had some moments. Yegor, I think, is getting his feet under him a little bit.
Yep.
I feel bad for everyone in Brooklyn, but Yegor has his trigger as a 3-point shooter. His 2-point is a different story, but his trigger as a 3-point shooter has been, I thought, pretty impressive for his size, and his passing has been there. There have been there's more guys we could discuss, but on the whole, the way this class has played, I think there have been. We started covering the draft, both of us, like, publicly in 2020. I don't remember a year where more teams relied on more rookies so much out of the gate than
Yep.
this year. And you could think there's CBA apron reasons for that? Maybe. But to me, I just think it's because these players are, the more, class over class that they come into the league, they are understanding how to just manipulate and fit themselves within possessions without dominating the ball. That's what I think.
I would say I would give two reasons for that. Number one, exactly what you talked about. I think this class is one of the more special rookie classes that we've had. I think these guys are legitimately talented enough to come in and make an impact early. But I think too is a lot of the stuff we've heard and we've seen on tape play out with the elevated pace of play and everything that goes into that, whether it's pressuring the ball, playing a little bit more full court defense, running actions quicker, getting into quicker offense. You need bodies to be able to do that stuff. So you kind of have to go down your bench a little bit more and rely on some of these younger guys who, should be in the level of conditioning that you need going down the bench to be able to do a lot of that stuff. I think that absolutely plays into it, and why we're seeing regular season depth continue to be more and more and more of a factor. And that ended up being a factor in the playoffs last year too. We'll see if that's a trend that keeps popping up. It's more 10 guys rather than just 6 or 7 you're looking at in the playoffs. But I think that is a factor into it too, in terms of being a little bit more willing to give some of these rookies the leash.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think as you see in college and AAU, more bigs handle the ball and shoot threes, and just more 5-out concepts in general. I think playing 5-out re-emphasizes to a young player that you always have passing options, and you need to be aware of them, because if you're not hitting them, your opponent will hit them, because your opponent's going to play 5-out. And that is the winning brand of ball, which is to understand your reads and understand your options every time you're driving, as opposed to, previous modes of development where it was understood that not much usage was expected out of your center, unless your center was like an animal, and so there was an understanding that the scoring pie was going to be occupied by mostly 2 players out of 5 at any given time. I think as that has become democratized, the passing ethic has become more important. And I think you've seen higher feel, so to speak, rookies enter the league as a result. And I think this is a very high feel class. I've heard it compared, and I've compared it as well to 2021. And there are differences between those classes, but I think you mentioned before we started recording, but the dribble, pass, shoot, but emphasis on pass a lot between those two classes is notable. Whether you got, you had Giddey, Jalen Johnson, Franz, these were guys that did not go in the top 5 in that draft. And I think throughout here, Murray Boyles hasn't really hit yet, but Joman is a passer. Trey even a little bit as a passer, but Queen, like we mentioned.
Dude, do me a favor, cut this clip out and send it to the Sacramento Kings and tell them to play Nick Clifford. Just do me that favor. Just do that for me. Then we'll be good.
I want them to play Neek and Maxime, man. I'm a Reynaud guy. So
Neek Clifford so far only 182 minutes, but 22 assists, 7 turnovers. I know he hasn't shot the ball well, but come on. He's only gonna get better if you give him minutes. That's the only way he's gonna get better. So let's play him.
I'm sure.
Figure it out, Kings.
I'm sure they're cooking up a Russ, Schroeder, Monk, Neek, Keon Ellis lineup, pick
5 guards. Oh yeah, boy.
A lot of guards. Levine at backup 5.
Oh boy.
It just is what it is. We'll talk about Sacramento on a gloomier day. But Nate, thank you so much for your time. These rankings come out weekly. Is there a specific day you release them every week?
Yeah, so I've been keeping an every Friday tempo for my rookie rankings to come out. Shout out to Corey, Tulaba, and the rest of our awesome design team and No Ceiling. Some of the interns were stepping in as well, helping to create that template. It's awesome. I'll keep publishing them on my social handle at Draft Deeper every Friday. Every Tuesday, I release a written column for No Ceilings called The Morning Dunk. I brought that back. It's essentially taking a main section to focus on some sort of trend with the young guys that can also be factored into how we're evaluating guys, long term as well as for the draft. And then I'm certainly keeping tabs and doing some quick hits on some rookie risers and sophomore standouts. So make sure you're tuning into that as well. And then podcasting once a week on the Locked On Network, the #1 sports podcasting network. So shout out to everyone there for giving us that opportunity. I'm on once a week. That comes out every Tuesday. I podcast with guy who we mentioned, Maxwell Baumbach, one of my best friends in the space. So have been having a lot of fun this year on the content side, Chuck.
Hell yeah. Nate, you are always welcome here. And
we got to do this more often, man. We really do. Like you and I, every time we do a podcast,
look,
it's excellent stuff. It's fun. We got to do it.
If you and Maxwell are under the weather one week and you're just like, can I just have someone to talk for 20 minutes while we are just like, then you know who to call. I'm your guy.
100%. No. You're getting a call to come on the No Ceilings feed, where we have a little bit more room to breathe, so to speak, in terms of the time of the podcast. And we're gonna do a similar exercise. I want to talk sophomores with you on the No Ceilings feed, because the shout out to all the people who said the 2024 NBA draft class was a pile of crap. The sophomores are having some fun breakouts this year. So we got to talk sophomores.
That's right. They are. That's right. AJ Mitchell, baby. AJ and Keyshawn. But no, it's okay. Different day.
Yep.
So at Draft Deeper, Nate Grubel, thank you so much. Thank you all for listening. This has been Chucking Darts. It's okay to be wrong about sports. Find your dartboard and start chucking. Thank you.